Well, I'm really, really happy to introduce you. This is the first time that you've been on Our Mornings with us.
It is.
You are the UK and Ireland Director, Alisa, Latty-Alleyne.
Yes.
And we're absolutely privileged to have you on our programme this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I can't wait to spend the time with you and just share with the nation what we're doing in this new season at CBN UK and Ireland.
So, you know, tell me a little bit about this. It seems a pretty tall order, doesn't it? CBN's never been afraid.
We've never been afraid. We are founded on the very principle that, you know, you aim for something so big that it is impossible without God. And so a couple of years ago, I got a word from God, 1 million salvations. I was driving down from where I live to our offices in Hereford, and the Lord just put on my heart 1 million salvations. I had no idea what that meant, and honestly, I started the negotiation process. You know, when God gives you such an enormous goal or enormous word, you then think to yourself, how am I going to achieve this? And so I negotiated 10,000 sounds more achievable, exactly, Lord. Yeah. And he was like this, no. And then what he did over the course of the following couple of weeks was just give me confirmation that what I had heard was correct. And so here we are, almost 2 years later, with me leading the ministry into a new season to see 1 million people encounter Jesus. And it's not just about counting of the number. I really want to make that clear. This is about creating true disciples. CBN's global mission is to preach the gospel and prepare disciples for the coming of Jesus Christ. And so how we're outworking that locally in this country is we want to see 1 million people be introduced to Jesus through digital platforms, through media content, through our humanitarian outreach programs, and give them the opportunity to respond so that they become true disciples of Jesus.
Well, let's go a little bit step by step, because obviously we want to be involved.
Yeah,
in it,
absolutely.
Of course, and I know that our viewers certainly would. People phone all the time and say, I've just been praying for revival.
Yeah.
You know, people are absolutely desperate in these times. People are desperate for their children, aren't they?
Absolutely. And that's one of the most important things. This is something that is for our children, our children's children.
Yes.
And one of the things that we're doing, so there are 3 pillars that make up our Road to 1 Million goal. The first is we want to see non-Christians introduced to Jesus. The second is we want to call prodigals home. And the third is we want to empower and equip Christians to share their faith. But we said to ourselves, okay, well, we need to be quite practical with this. What are the things that we're going to actually do on the ground? And so it took a lot of prayer time. But we came up in October with what we're calling the UK Founders Club. And the UK Founders Club is based on the legacy of this incredible ministry, CBN's incredible ministry.
Well, that's how it all started, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
With actually getting 700 partners.
Absolutely. So we're calling 700 people to come alongside us to help grow programs and initiatives in the UK. But you're absolutely right. Over 60 years ago, Dr. Pat Robinson, who founded this incredible ministry, did exactly the same thing. He said, I need to call 700 people to give $10 a month to keep the broadcast station going. Now, bearing in mind, he didn't achieve the 700, but I think it was 356 or something.
Sure.
But what he was able to do was then continue to call people to pray and call in for prayer. And then God did the rest. And, you know, however many years now we are down the line, it's almost 65 years, we've seen millions and millions of people be impacted through not just the media evangelism, but through the humanitarian outreach that supports the ministry as well. So the UK Founders Club is very simply calling 700 people to come and partner with us as we go out into the UK and do 5 things. One is we want to be able to address the need that families across the country are facing in terms of food shortage.
There's families now who are actually having to go to food banks
Yeah.
where you've got both husband and wife working.
Absolutely.
These are working families.
Absolutely. There are over 10 million families across the UK that are struggling with food. And being able to buy food. And you're absolutely right, it's not just people that come from socially, economically deprived backgrounds, it's middle class England that are struggling now. And so for the last 4 years, we've been partnering with the church in Cumbraen in Wales, Victory Church, where we partnered with them to open a food pantry. And that food pantry was showing, was being able to support those physical requirements of, okay, you can do a £5 shop and you can get a number of different pieces of food, healthy food, produce, dried food, those types of things. But the most important thing was it was being done through the local church. And so people were coming to the church, seeing the church help to transform communities that they're based in. And then what they were able to do during that time is to share the gospel. And what we were able to do a couple of months ago is we go back to Victory Church and film people whose lives have been transformed, not just through the physical needs being met, but their spiritual needs being met.
Two hands of the gospel.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so the food pantries are our opportunity to work alongside local churches to be able to offer food and nourish the communities, both physically and spiritually. Seeing revival, not just in that community through, as I said, the physical element, but hopefully seeing churches grow and flourish and being seen as the community transformation hubs that they should be seen. So that's food pantries. The second pillar is reaching a digital generation. We want to be able, and that's not a young generation, everybody has some type of digital device, right? Whether you're shopping on it, whether you're watching content on our RTV on demand, whether you are ordering something to come to your house in an immediate way. We know that people are searching for content like never before. And what we know is that they're searching and finding things that will not lead them to salvation. And so what we want to do is we want to create more content alongside our partners to be able to share the gospel and be able to push that out through social media advertising, through on-demand services, but connecting the truth. And so we're creating content also that people that are non-Christians are used to seeing. So the styling of it looks familiar to them, but with the sole purposes of being able to speak truth into their lives. And
I mean, it's so easy for us to sit here and talk about that, but that's quite a tricky thing to do, isn't it?
It is. With the way that people consume content, it's getting shorter and shorter. And so our challenge as a ministry is that we want to be able to hook them in before they 3-second scroll.
Exactly.
But we want to be able to do that without compromising the gospel. And that's the most important thing for us. We want to make sure that you get to Jesus quickly. We're not going to try and, catfish you or clickbait you into clicking on something. We want to be able to share that your felt need, your issue, your trauma, your addiction, your abuse, it can be healed, and it can be healed through Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So that's digital platforms. The third pillar is our prayer app. We want to be able to expand our prayer ministry, again, with people connecting online like never before. We have our prayer teams. I know that you guys do too.
We do.
You have people interceding, which is phenomenal. But we want to give people the ability to, through their phone, be able to pray for each other, be able to put their prayer needs out there, have people pray for them.
How will you do that?
Through the creation of an app.
Right.
So, and again, we're in conceptual stages because we need those 700 people to come alongside us to help us develop these programs. But we believe that there needs to be an immediacy for prayer and a calling to the nation to pray, but to do it in an innovative way. And so the prayer app will give people the ability to submit a prayer. There'll be people, volunteers, members of our team that will be able to answer their prayer, but also as a member of that prayer community, you would be able to pray for a person too. And then when we get that prayer that's been answered, the person will be able to click answered prayer, and we share that.
And it's non-threatening for people, isn't
it? Absolutely. So that's the third pillar. The fourth pillar is around community support. We want to be able to get out into the community and quite simply share the Bible with them. We want to give them physical Bibles in their hand. So you probably guessed, I love technology, absolutely love technology. And I love to look at disruptive ways to be able to disciple and evangelize. But Lesley, there is nothing that replaces feeling a physical Bible in your hand. And so we want to produce as many of them as we can. And we want to be able to share them in care homes, in hospitals and in prisons through a community outreach team. And that community outreach team will be made up of an army of volunteers around the country.
Yeah.
It is ambitious, but we've already seen
It's
people...
also pretty brave, because it's not easy these days like it used to be, to be able to go to care homes and say, you know, I'd really like to be able to share these Bibles and such things, because there's all of the, you know, we're living in this woke society.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really going to, you know, need, you know, sort of a lot of courage.
Absolutely.
And a lot of faith.
Absolutely.
And the grace of God as well.
Absolutely. One of the things that we started was just kind of testing it in Hereford, where our offices and studios are based. And to our surprise, the care home that we went to visit, because we're not going in and saying, here's a Bible.
Yeah.
We're going in with a team to sit down and talk to that person. Mm-hmm. So what we found was people just want to have conversation. Yeah. The same when we went to one of the hospitals that we visited. Initially, it's just a conversation. Tell me about you. Tell me about your life. Yeah. And people want that communication and that level of community.
They really do.
And then because the person that they're speaking with is a Christian, as they're building relationship, that person gets to share their faith. And we've had some great and interesting testimonies come back from that. But the ability to then be able to say, hey, I want to leave you with something. Here's a Bible for you to read. Read more about this Jesus that I'm telling you about. Sure. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's bold, but you know me for a little while now.
Absolutely.
Do I do anything that's not bold and audacious? And then our final pillar is one that's really close to my heart. Superbook, which is our Bible animated series, is phenomenal. It's been translated into over 60 languages across the world. Yeah. But the one language it hasn't been translated into is to British Sign Language, or any sign language. And so we have already started the journey of translating Superbook Season 1 into British Sign Language, so that every child everywhere gets the ability to be able to experience the gospel, how God intended it for them. And then the other part of that is being able to develop Superbook storybooks in Braille. And so our fifth pillar is getting the gospel out to over 50,000 deaf children in this country, and also starting to develop these Braille storybooks so blind children can experience the truth of the gospel. And not just children, families. We had an incredible testimony of a family who, hearing child and non-hearing child, were able to watch the same episode of Superbook together.
Amazing.
Their mother said that's the first time they've ever been able to do that, and then talk about it, because programs aren't always necessarily available, and certainly not faith-based content.
No, you're
so
right.
there are 5 pillars.
Brilliant.
Food pantries, reaching a digital generation with the gospel, expanding our prayer ministry through a prayer app, getting Bibles out into the community, and getting Superbook translated into British Sign Language and the storybooks in Braille.
I bet you're not taking any annual leave this year, are you?
It's been cancelled for everybody.
Alisa, thank you so much for coming on to Our Mornings, and do go onto CBN's website for the information that you need, or give their offices a call. If you're not able to find their telephone number, we'll be very happy in our office to help you with that.